at you for Overwatch League season number 3. So, first week of predictions. Here it is. Tomorrow we got the matches starting out. If you guys are not familiar with the new format with the homesteads every week, there are no stages, no stage playoffs for this season. As you can see, we just got our 27 weeks of the regular season. The teams will rotate. The map pools will eventually change at certain points of the year, but there are more maps included this season. So we got the New York Excel hosting the one event. We got 4 games there, 2 tomorrow, 2 on Sunday, and then we also have Dallas opening up their season with a homestead. Also, 2 games tomorrow and then 2 games on Sunday. So I like this format. I think it's going to work out well. Not sure on maps yet for the teams this year, but either way, I'll be going through predictions. And yeah, since there's only games Saturday and Sunday, look for just the one video per week, hitting the matchups. If I feel like it's taking too long or you guys want it, we could potentially switch to going through just the Saturday 4 and then the Sunday 4 in separate videos. So we'll see. I am very open to changing up depending on what you guys want and need. So for this week, crazy. The matches start at 12. Like I said, I do like this format, especially since they're going to be in different countries. I think it will make it a little bit easier to catch up on stuff and watch stuff because, of course, it is the weekend. So we're going to go through each of the homesteads individually. So the first one, we got Toronto taking on Paris. Defiant versus Eternal. First game of the season, as you can see, starts at 12. And then there's the London Spitfire taking on New York Excel. And then after those are done, we'll go over to Dallas and see the Gladiators take on the Titans. And then the Valiant face off against the Fuel. And then same thing for the next day. So, Toronto and Paris. I like Toronto in this matchup. I like their roster a bit more overall. They do have a lot of new players playing with each other, but they also have history with each other. You got guys from the Canadian national team like Agilities, Magachu, Surefour playing together. Agilities and Karif both came over from the Valiant, so there's going to be a level of trust there already. And you got leaders like Calyx as well as Nevix. So I think this team is going to perform very well. We'll see what Paris runs out. Like I said, their big prospect Sparkle, DPS legend from Contenders Korea, will not be able to play because of his age for a bit, so they will not be able to rely on him. They still do have some guys like Soon, however, that will definitely help them early on. But like I said, I like Toronto here. I'm seeing 3-1 here. I think we're going to have I kind of have a feeling there's going to be closer matches this week, even though some of the matchups are a little lopsided, just because it's a new season, we're in new locations, so it's going to be interesting to see. I'm very excited to see these home crowds. Hopefully everyone shows up in full force, and the fans are great like they were last season. The 4 homesteads last year, or 3 was it? They went really, really well. In Dallas, LA. So I see success once again. Hopefully the viewers will be very good as well. Like I said, the change from Twitch to YouTube Gaming, I think that will affect them at least early on. There will be less viewers because some people won't even really think about it. But those of us who really love Overwatch League, we will still watch it either way. So, like I said, I think Toronto wins relatively easily. They have one of the more well-rounded rosters, in my opinion. I just have questions with Paris, so I think Toronto is going to take about a 3-1, I would guess. Then you got London Spitfire taking on the New York Excel. So I like New York to win this one pretty easily. I'll say they'll run away. It ends up being 3-1. They'll take the first 3 quite easily. London, whole new team. It's going to be pretty much all of their first time in Overwatch League performing, so I'm sure there's going to be some element of nerves there. It's in front of the New York crowd, so I'm sure the Excelsior will draw off that. They have a lot of their same roster coming back from last year, so I think this one is an easy win for New York. And then London has another match the next day. They're taking on Paris, who also has two matches. So important day for both of these teams. A lot of teams they only have the one, as you can see, like Toronto and Boston. But for the teams that have two matches, very important to get off to a good start, get at least one of those as a victory. So I'm thinking it's going to be two 0-1 teams. But I like Paris in this matchup. I think they win a close one. Again, they have more of their roster back from last year. Um, talk about Ben Best, talk about Soon, talk about Nico, other people like that. They will have their supports as well, like Gray and Cruz. I think there's going to be more. They'll be more comfortable. And Paris got out to a nice start last year. I think especially if they lose to Toronto, they're going to be pretty motivated. They're going to come in and get the victory and be 1-for-1 or 1-and-1 on the weekend. And then we got Boston taking on New York. So I think this is a relatively easy start for New York. I think they take care of Boston easily as well. Boston, largely a new roster. They were at the bottom of my power rankings. I don't see them making an impact on the league, at least right away. So I'm going to take New York here. Again, I think it's a pretty easy victory. I could see 3-1. I could see 4-0. What I'm most interested to see with New York is how they start incorporating some of their guys like Who Are You as a new signing, and some of the other guys. Obviously, Hotba as their new off tank. He's going to be playing a lot early on, so I'm curious to see his chemistry and how it evolves with Mono, their main tank. But like I said, even with these new pieces, I still really like New York. I think they take care of that one, and they go 2-0 to start the season at their homestead. Moving on to the Dallas weekend, we got LA Gladiators taking on the Vancouver Titans. These teams had some nice matchups last year. Vancouver, I believe, was victorious in all of them. They had a nice close matchup in the playoffs where the Titans took out the Gladiators 4-2, but pretty much all of the maps were very close and competitive. So I think we have a good match here. Again, with the Gladiators, they're incorporating essentially four new people. Their only starters back from last year are the support line of Shaz and Big Goose, unless they want to start Paintbrush, who is their new signing. In that case, it'll just be Shaz. I assume they'll probably start Big Goose and Shaz though, because they have a lot of experience. They're a very good duo, established. They have great chemistry with each other. But whole new tank line, all new DPS players, even like the reserves, all three of them are new. So with Vancouver, they're incorporating Fissure back into the lineup. He came out of retirement, was with the Dynasty last year for about half the season. So they do have to kind of incorporate him and get their flow on the stage. But if we're just looking at rosters here, I give Vancouver an edge. Again, basically the rest of the roster is the same. They did add Ryu Jae-hong. I don't really envision him playing, at least early on. I think it'll be more about Twilight. So I like Vancouver here. This should be a close matchup. I think talent level, these teams are very similar. But I'll take Vancouver, taking it probably 3-1. Maybe it goes the distance. I could see that. Should be competitive, but like I said, I'm going on the experience the Titans have of most of that roster's been playing together for pretty much 2.5, 3 years now. So I think Vancouver goes to 1-0 early on. Then two teams that aren't supposed to be super competitive this season. We got LA Valiant and Dallas Fuel. However, the rumor mill has said that the Valiant are performing very well in scrims, a lot better than some people assumed that they would. I'll believe it when I see it, on the stage. So we'll see how they perform. But who knows? This team could have some very good chemistry. They had, like I was talking about in the power rankings, the Valiant really brought together. I feel like they have a lot of like-minded individuals, and that can really be a benefit for a team. Um, that being said, I'm gonna go with the Fuel here. They've been known to have some kind of rough starts, but I think they played very well in their homestead last year, including against the Valiant. They blew them out. So I like the Fuel in this matchup. Like I said, they're just gonna build off of that crowd energy. We know that they had a great turnout last year, so I assume it's going to be just as good, if not even better, this season. So I think it's pretty close. I think the Valiant will take a map, maybe two, but in the end, I like Dallas. I'm gonna lean for them here. Again, with the fuel and the shock in particular for this one, I'm very, very interested to see which lineups they field and if they do make substitutions in between, because for both of these teams, they have a lot of backups, especially at like the DPS position, and they have a lot of players who can play. So we'll see what they do with their rotations early on. So then the next day, we have the Valiant going in again to play against the Titans. I like Vancouver here. I think it's relatively close. Like I said, with the new format, with the travel, I think it'll even things out a little bit. And even teams that are supposed to really dominate aren't going to as much. We could potentially see upsets here as well. Who knows? Especially with a team like Dallas, we'll talk about against San Francisco, but you never know, especially when it's their homestead. But in this case, I'll take Vancouver, probably in a 3-1. Yeah, for Valiant, the spotlight I would say is probably on guys like Gig, who is coming into his first season. He's the main tank player, so he's super important for them. We'll see how they coalesce together on stage, because a lot of these guys have a little bit of experience or none on the big stage. So I got Vancouver going to 2-0 after this weekend. Then we got the reigning champs, San Francisco Shock, taking on the Dallas Fuel. So this is a pretty much roster mismatch. I remember early on in Stage 1 last year, San Francisco beat them 4-0, and it was one of the most lopsided 4-0s I've ever seen. I think Dallas will keep it close early on. I think they'll make the first couple maps difficult for San Francisco here because, like I said, crowd energy. It's a new season. They're going to be feeling fresh, especially depending on how it goes against the Valiant. We'll see what their confidence level is at. The coaching staff has been with most of this roster for a long time now, so they should have some confidence going in. But I think as we go along in this matchup, San Francisco is just going to pull further and further ahead. Probably a 4-0 here, but I could see Dallas snagging a map. So I think San Francisco starts their title defense in pretty dominant fashion and goes to 1-0 going into next week. So there's the projections for this week. Very interesting how the format is. The last couple of years, you got to see your team play pretty much every weekend because of like the 4-day, the 4-day stretch. Not going to quite be the case this year. There's going to be a lot more prep time for certain teams. Especially the teams that only have to play one time for the weekend. You get to really, really hone in on the one team that you're playing. So I think that will cause some changes, maybe cause more upsets or less, depending on the coaching staffs. But yeah, I think it incorporates a little bit more strategy to the league and a little bit more flexibility, especially with the hero pools. It's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out in theory, or not in theory, but in practice. So I'm excited. Hope you guys are too. As soon as I get off work tomorrow, I will be firing up my computer and watching OWL for the day. So, thank you guys very much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. You see any big upsets coming on the horizon? You have any big disagreements with me? And are you doing any like watch parties, anything like that? That would be super cool. Let me know if you got any special plans for the days. So, with that, I hope you guys have a tremendous couple of days, and then I'll see you in the next one, recapping this weekend's events. So look for that early next week. Have a good day.